Are you ready to live your dream? Motivation, inspiration, and passion. That's what it takes to make dreams come true. Welcome to the Nadia Sahara Show. Our guests will share important tips, insights, and knowledge to help you fulfill your dreams of success. Here's your host, actress, author, entrepreneur, Nadia Sahara.
Hello. Yes, we are ready for a great show today. I am your host, Nadia Sahara, with the Nadia Sahara Show. Are you all ready? Yes, we are. I went on a little vacation, and my brain is still over there somewhere. But anyway, I am back, and this is the place you want to be, because this is the show that motivates, inspires, and educates, and helps you to pursue your dream, to learn how my guests failed and how they picked up and became successful with their dreams, how they live their dreams, what they did, how they do it, and how they keep it going. This is where we come in, we find out what they did, we learn from everyone, because no one has all the answers. That's why I invite guests to my show who will share their secrets, their journey, and their challenges. How did they do it? What are they doing now to maintain that success? My guest today is author, filmmaker, and actress Katherine Norland.
Oh, thank you so much, Nadia. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, so good. I can't wait to question you, and you are incredible. Thank you. I know you've listened, and you know what it's all about. And it's I'm so thrilled. I love my show. I've been doing it for 10 years. So let's talk about you. You are an author. And
indeed.
Yes, you are. And you're on your third book.
Yes, I just had my book launch for my third book exactly 1 month ago. Had it at the Pasadena Library. It was wonderful.
Oh, cool. And give us the title of that book.
This newest book is called Poetic Prescriptions for Plaguing Problems. And the subtitle is Biblical Remedies for When Life Bites.
Ooh, that's going to be a necessary book, because it's biting all the time now.
I know, and we have to find the right kind of pest control to tell Beelzebub to buzz off.
Oh, my goodness, we do, don't we? It's pretty bad out there. Well, let's see if we can solve some problems here. So how did you come up with that title?
Well, I started, when I was a teenager, I started writing poetry when I was down, when I was depressed, when I was having issues, and it was all pretty dreary. And then in my early 20s, I started going to Bible college, and I realized all this poetry I had written was only the problems, and I never came up with a prescription for these problems. And then when I realized, well, the Word of God really has all the answers that we need in life, and if we just pull from there, we'll be able to get out of any dilemma we have. Suddenly I started writing not just the problems down, but the solutions, and I had this whole series of poems, and I had a mentor once, and he said, you know, your first book should be called Poetic Prescriptions for Pesky Problems. I said, I kind of like that title. And so that's where the series was born, and my first book was born. And the second book was Poetic Prescriptions for Eternal Youth, subtitle Examining Earthly Beauty from a Heavenly Perspective. And that was my walk through self-esteem issues I had. And I went from self-loathing to self-love by finding out what God had to say about me, and overcame all of that so I could be confident in my calling and my purpose in life.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, this book is about plagues, and and it's about 10 plagues, and you got those from the Old Testament.
It's kind of just the visual backdrop or the metaphors that I use, but it's really about what we deal with in everyday life nowadays. Because when I first started putting this together, I was being plagued by probably more than 10 things, like money issues, relationship problems, work-related issues, doubt, so many things. And I took those problems and I just used the visual metaphors of the plagues to kind of drive home the point. For instance, like if you're dealing with like lust has this one particular thing,
And
lusting after.
everybody does. Everybody does. Yes.
But I use the plague of locust to drive home the point, because locust will just consume you, just like lust can consume your thoughts, and it's all you think about. You start imagining this person or this thing or whatever you want. And just like a locust infestation will eat all of your crops and there's nothing left of you, you feel like an empty shell afterwards. That's
Oh.
how I use. And I also am using metaphors like the typhus, the Moscow plague of 1771. I have a poem in there about marital problems and contemplating divorce, and I use the bubonic plague in that just to kind of drive home the point. So
Wow, I love it. I love the locust one
yeah,
about the lust. Oh, that is so
yeah,
perfect, because it does
thank you.
eat you alive.
Yeah, yeah.
It
If we
eats
let
your
it.
brain, eats your heart. You don't know where in the hell you are. Excuse my language.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
edit that part. But oh my gosh, it's true. Maybe I'll keep it in.
Why not?
Why not? It's true. And it's true. The locust. Oh, I love that. I love that. So I never ever thought about using the plague metaphor for our lives today and for the diseases and the sin of today. There's so many of the diseases and sin right now. It's so horrible out there. The world is a mess, and really the simple solution would be for all of us to get into the Bible, read the Bible, trust God, let God touch our hearts, and let him inspire us, let him help us through all this disaster that's happening.
Right?
And mostly
Yeah.
to love each other. And this is so necessary in the world. People need to know that they need to love thy neighbor. They forgot that.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. And a lot of times people are mean to their neighbors because they're mean to themselves first.
Yes. Yes.
My last book was kind of all about that. When you don't love yourself, you can't love anybody else.
That's right.
So there's a balance, though. Then you've got, especially, living in LA, there's also the narcissists of the world.
Yes, yes. And you can't really love yourself or anyone else unless you love God.
At least loving the proper way, loving people the proper way,
Yes.
the way that God would.
That's right. You have to love God. You have to know God, and he puts that love in your heart, and he changes you. That's where it all originates. Let me ask you, you say that this book has helped you, writing the book helped you heal, and it's very cathartic, and I believe that because I wrote my book, and it was very cathartic. And I agree with you about there are a lot of narcissists in LA, and oh God, and unfortunately they're very deceiving, and you don't even know who you're talking to. There's so many different personalities and different things that go on there. Sometimes it takes a hardship in your life to wake up. And to realize that you're in the wrong company.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Or like that, there's a saying that says sometimes God has to put you flat on your back before you look up. So whatever hardship knocks you down, now you're finally looking in the right direction.
Yes. And unfortunately, sometimes, most of the time, that's what has to happen. Because I don't think we wake up. Otherwise, it takes forever.
We're so distracted and bombarded by everything nowadays, the busyness of life, social media.
Yes. So tell me, you said that your book was cathartic. It helped you to heal. Can you tell us how that happened for you?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in the book that I reveal of things I wouldn't normally talk about or tell other people about, issues I've struggled with. The first poem in the book is about addiction. I have a poem in the book called The Ledge, which was revealing my depression and suicide attempts. And I have a poem in there about domestic violence. There's a lot that's cathartic, and some even though some of the stories aren't necessarily what I went through, I have a poem in there about molestation. Some stuff's heavy, some stuff's really light and funny, but it's a great release, not just for me to be writing about it, but having people come up to me and say, I didn't know how to express myself. I had no way to talk about this. I didn't have the words for it, but you put it in such a way that made me feel like I could heal from this and move on past this and help and find the solution. That for me has been probably the best thing of what people have said. So I feel like I'm not just writing this to be cathartic for me, but to make a difference in other people's lives who maybe couldn't speak for themselves or who were so paralyzed by their circumstances of what happened to them that they now have a more sense of freedom around the issue.
Yes, that's why I wrote mine as well. I had no idea it would be cathartic. Had no clue whatsoever. I just had to write it and let everybody know what happened. And so if it's happening to them, they'll know what to do. And I understand where you are coming from. I really do. Your book is divided into 4 parts. And there you say that they're humorous. So tell us the 4 parts and why you think they're humorous.
Well, you know, I have a kind of a weird sense of humor, I guess some people say. It's, you know, sometimes people think they hear the word Christian poetry and they think it's going to be all about angels in heaven sitting on clouds and playing harps, but it's really boots on the ground, slogging through the mud, real life issues. But yeah, I divided it in 4 parts because it's like the transition that you go through from place to place. Like the first section is called the plague. It's like a locust infestation because that's the time in your life where everything is swarming you and you can't stop it. You don't know where all these things are coming from out of the blue and you don't know what to do about it. The next section is called aware because now you're figuring out, okay, if I see all these problems now, I have to do something about it. So the subtitle for that chapter is Place Roach Motels in Every Room. And that's kind of based on one of the poems in the book about how certain friends who are really like frenemies can be like cockroaches, just infesting every part of your life and always pointing out what's wrong with you and what your flaws are. So the third section, now you're savvy. Now you know you have to be proactive. So it's called Combat. Armed with pesticide, wearing a flypaper dress. And that's the book cover. That's the girl on the cover with the flypaper dress on, all the bugs stuck to it. She's got her beehive hair and her bug spray that says "Buzz off Beelzebub." And then so you're doing battle with you're finally fighting back for what's going on in your life and you're trying to take your life back. And then eradicate the last section. Sometimes you realize the problems are just too big and it's time to tent the house. There's no other way to get over it. And God helps you with all of that. He's the greatest, terminator, exterminator of all the bugs and creepy things crawling around in our life. And when we trust him with it, we will prevail. No matter what army is coming against us, he's going to part the Red Sea so we can go through it and not drown.
Yes, absolutely. I believe that. Well, we're going to take a short break and we're going to come right back, so don't go away.
Check out the all-new Nadia Sahari Show. It's today's hottest new talk show and rated 5 stars on iTunes, featuring amazing guests and inspiring stories of today. All genres, all dreams, no limits. Visit thenadiasaharishow.com and get the app for Apple and Android. Easy streaming and listening. Have a business? Why not become a sponsor of the show and take your brand to the next level? Email us at info@thenadiasaharishow.com for our complete sponsor and advertising package deals. Let the show inspire you, motivate you, and educate you to your dream and to your success. Only on and always on the Nadia Sahari Show, the place where dreams really do come true.
And we're back with Katherine Norland. She is an author of 3 books. Today, however, we are discussing her latest book, which is called, Katherine?
Poetic Prescriptions for Plaguing Problems. Yes. Biblical Remedies for When Life Bites.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Well, let's talk about that book again. So you talked about the roach motels in every room. What
Hmm.
exactly does that mean?
Well, when you realize there's an area of your life whether it's a person that's unkind or unhealthy or a habit or something that you have going on in your life, you can't just let it infest you. You can't let those darn roachy people be swimming in your lemonade and
Mm,
ruining all your picnic plans. You have to do something to get rid of them. You have to debug. You have to
mm-hmm.
debug yourself. And whether that's, the metaphor of placing roach motels in every room, uh, we can't be a victim in our life anymore. We can no longer complain and rail when we're not doing anything about it. So if you have problems in your life and you recognize that and you see where the source is coming from, get some support from people you know and love and trust. Ask God what to do. But when you can identify the people that are harmful to your life, then you have to get rid of them. Even if it's painful, even if it takes a long time, you have to be able to protect yourself so you can thrive and not, have to worry about all the little droppings they're leaving behind that you have to keep cleaning up.
I love that. Let me ask you a question since we're on
Yeah.
this. How do you feel about? I've talked to several women that were in relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and they felt, yes, they were toxic, they were poisonous. But I've heard women say, it's my fault because I allowed them to do that to me. Instead of
Mm-hmm.
me lifting them up and getting them to where I was, I let them drag me down to their level and stomp me and wipe their shoes on me. And I allowed that because I wanted to have love and I wanted to have peace. And do you think that's true? Do you think that we should take all the blame because we allowed it, because we are good persons, we have a good heart, and we wanted peace and love, and maybe we maybe let them do too much? I mean, do you feel that it's all our fault?
I mean, everybody has a role to play in a situation, and I think it's good they can come to a point where they realize that they played a part in that game. But the moment they realize that this is an abusive relationship and the peace and love they were seeking, they're not actually getting true love and true peace if what they're doing is cowering under someone's angry words or their fist, and their version of peace is just let me just be quiet and not even have an opinion so he doesn't lash out at me.
Yes,
That's not true peace. That's not the peace that God promises that surpasses all understanding, to
that's
guard
right.
our hearts and guard our minds. So the moment we realize something is amiss, obviously go to God in prayer,
Yes.
and admitting your part in it is great, so you can, if that's a lesson you need to learn so you don't take it into the next relationship, that's wonderful. But like the old saying goes, it takes two to tango.
Yes.
So whether you're allowing it or not, that person is still doing something that is not healthy and is not good for the relationship. And you have to protect yourself and get out of it. If you're taking all the blame for it, then you're still under that victim mentality of that person that's berating you and telling you it's all your fault. You've bought into it. You've believed that lie that it's all your fault when it's not all your fault. It's two people are in a fight. You can't fight. You're not really shadow boxing, right?
I
It,
love
it,
that.
it takes two people.
That is true. I do. I've been life coaching for over 30 years. And today I had one of my clients tell me that she was married and divorced now, and she was telling me that she allowed him to control her, allowed him to do all the bad things that he did because she loved him and she wanted to show him that she loved him and she was going to do as he wanted her to do. But anyway, ultimately, he overpowered her. He brought her down to his level and just was horrible to her and disrespectful, ended up in a divorce. So, and
Mm.
she is taking all the blame. And I told her, no, you're not to blame. It's good you're taking that responsibility. that you allowed it. But you allowed it for a reason, out of the goodness of your heart. You did the good thing. He's the one who was the poison and the toxic person, and who
And
used
people will
that
always
against
pull you down.
Yeah, and you can never, and in my experience, if you go or date or marry someone in a lesser class than you, they will drag you down. You cannot bring them up to your level and give them class or teach them or anything, because they like it where they are, and they're going to take you down. And I have learned that myself the hard way.
It's so much easier for someone to drag. I mean, just think about gravity. It's so much easier for someone to drag you down than for you to pull them up.
Yes.
That's why the scripture warns us, bad company corrupts good morals.
Yes, that's beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Okay, well, earlier in the show, and maybe not on this show, maybe on Let's Happy Talk, you mentioned, earlier, you mentioned that you were the mother of an autistic child. And he's 11 years old. And tell us a little bit about your child and how you deal with that, how you handle that. I know that I have met more women in the last 6 months who have an autistic child as special needs, and I really admire you. I really think you women are super women, because you love your children no matter what, and you take care of them and you nurture them. I can't say all the fathers do it, because a lot of the fathers run away because they don't want to deal with it, and I've seen that. And but I think it's wonderful that you are one of the mothers that protects and loves that autistic child that you have. Tell us about the life lessons that you've learned from having an autistic child.
Yeah, actually, his autism diagnosis just happened 3-4 years ago. But before that, they had told us he had cerebral palsy. So we were dealing with cerebral palsy, developmental delays, and some intellectual disabilities. But he had all this behavior and was constantly acting out. And I thought, there's other kids with cerebral palsy that don't act like this. There's got to be something else going on. So I finally had him to the Children's Hospital, to a special division where they really diagnosed this over a period of days with multiple people. And when he was 8, they diagnosed him with autism, OCD, Tourette syndrome, ADHD, and Tourette syndrome. Okay. So he's got a whole handful of things that are popping up every now and then, and some of them seem to be getting worse. And I'm a little nervous of what will come when the teenage years start to happen and the hormone changes and how that will go. But each day it's a lesson, and I have days where I feel like I'm such a bad mom, that I just don't measure up, that I'm not doing anything right, that I should be kinder or more compassionate, or I should not lose my patience so quickly. And it's actually 2 days ago, he had one of his episodes where he's crying and freaking out, and the bus driver calls me, "You've got to come out and get him. He's not allowed to ride the bus. He's freaking out and screaming and crying." So I already had my next appointment scheduled, and I lost my temper with him. And so I got him off the bus, and I was so angry because he screwed up my plans again, yet another day. And so we got him out of the car, and he can walk short distances without his walker or wheelchair. So I had his walker and his bag, and he was coming towards the car, because now I was going to have to bring him to school, because they won't take him because he's throwing another fit. And I got him away from the bus and got to the car, and I just threw his walker on the ground, and I huffed off, because now I have to go in the house and cancel my plans and go get the baby and take. So I was kind of fuming, kind of mad, kind of resentful. And I'm thinking, this is not how I wanted my day to go. And I was like, what is your problem? Why are you freaking out? I'm not acting like a very good mom. He's like, I was thinking about an image. So with the OCD and the different, he gets like something will come to his mind and he gets an image in his mind and he can't get it out of his mind. And so the drive to school, I'm starting to cool down and I'm trying to teach him a life lesson about how it doesn't matter how when you have this image come to you and you can't stop it and there's nothing you can do about it, it doesn't matter if you're on the bus and the image is in your mind or if you're driving in my car or if you're here. And I'm telling him all this stuff. And then it dawns on me the way there. It doesn't matter if your child if your child ruins your plans, if you have to take him to school, getting mad isn't going to help. I'm telling him, getting mad and throwing a fit and crying about it isn't going to make the image go away. As I'm thinking to myself, getting mad and being resentful isn't going to make me not have to take him to school. So it was this beautiful life lesson that I thought I was going to give him a piece of my mind, but instead God gave me a PEACE, piece of his mind. And I was able to realize, wow, maybe I needed this.
Wow. What a story. Wow. That's amazing. I think it's wonderful. And it happens. You're a normal human being. You cannot do things or go through things without busting out like you did. You're going to have to at some point. And, there's enough is enough, and it happens. It doesn't matter whether you have autistic child or not. We all do that with our children, no matter what they're like, because there are times that you just can't take it, and you're going to have to bust out. And it's okay. It's a normal thing to do. And just like you said, God gave you peace. And that's good. That's very good. Now let's talk about Katherine. Katherine, you're 1 in 8 million who has 2 different colored eyes.
Yeah, I was born with heterochromia iridis, I guess that's what they call it. And it really bothered me growing up because kids would always make fun of me. And then I moved to California where all the kind of different, unique people
all the
are.
Weirdos.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to say
Are
it.
You a weirdo? I'm a weirdo. We're all weird.
Yeah, my last manager for my acting career told me that I looked like a Barnum and Bailey circus freak, and she said that's why you're not getting auditions, and she made me get headshots with contacts in so my eyes would match, and so no one would know, and it was like this secret thing I had going.
Oh wow!
But
you're an actress too.
Yes.
You've been in more than 100 films.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, talk about that. Tell us about that.
Well, that's what I originally moved to LA to do, was to be an actress. And I really enjoyed it. 6 hours after I drove into town, I had my first audition, and I've been on probably over 600, 700 auditions since. Mm-hmm. And it's been a real fun, joy, a learning experience. But the last few years, I've been really branching off into wanting to make films of my own. So I just produced a post-apocalyptic zombie Western called Cannibal Corpse Killers, which will be coming out in 2020. That I was also one of the leads in it, but I produced and executive produced it. And I'm currently in development with some other films that I'm looking to direct and or produce.
Wow, good for you. Well, that's where I am too. Same thing. I created a web series, but boy, did I get a lot of experience with that. But I do want to do my own. I want to start with a short first, and gradually, because it's been probably 6 years or more since my web series, so I have to get my feet wet again and feel all that good stuff again and go through all. But I'm not ready yet. But I do want to act. If someone calls me for an audition, I'll do it. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why
exactly.
not? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Spielberg could call us, or Tarantino could call us. Anybody could call us. We just have to be ready.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. And sometimes it's just about the people you're going to meet on set that day, the lives you might touch, the person you might inspire.
Yes.
Just being open to every opportunity that comes your way. And every situation I go into, I have to ask, the old me, when I first moved to LA, I would go to networking parties and think, who can help my career? And now I go to networking parties and think, who can I speak life into? Who can I be a blessing to? How can I make a difference? And it's been a wonderful shift for me.
That's beautiful. I love that. That's a good thing to do. Yes. I don't know if I ever went to red carpets thinking, who can do something for me? I've never, ever thought that way. I'm not that kind of person. I do always think about who can I help do this or help that.
Mm-hmm.
And that sometimes can work against you, and it can hurt you, and to be that generous with people. And unfortunately, I've been hurt a lot by different people doing that kind of thing. So I have to watch who I do that for.
Yeah, I think we could all use a little more discernment, right?
Yes, we do. We sure do. Because, if you're a giver, being a giver sometimes is a detriment to us, especially women like us who are givers and nurturers. We have to be careful and have discernment as to who we reach out to help or to save their whatever they need saving from. And sometimes God uses us to save people from something, and we have to be careful. And when it's from Him, we know. So we have to. So anyway, well, Katherine, you are incredible. I love your spirit. I love what you are doing and writing these great books and with metaphors that apply for today. And our world needs to understand why things are happening the way they are happening, why people respond the way they do. And your book is great. Before I ask you the question of how can people reach out to you, what would you say to someone who out there in the audience wants to be an actress or wants to be a writer and write the way you're writing in a metaphor way? What would you say to someone who has that same dream? What do they need to do to reach that?
Well, first of all, be sure it's what you want to do.
Yes.
And if it gives you joy, if it gives you happiness, then go for it. No matter who has something to say against it, no matter what the naysayers, there's always going to be someone to point out what could happen, the bad things. But if it's within your heart, I would study it. I would find out what the next best step is. You don't have to have the whole plan figured out along the way. I had to write 500 bad poems before I started writing good ones. And things are going to take practice. It's not going to happen overnight. And sometimes that's hard for people because they see what seemingly is overnight success, that people just pop out of the blue when they're famous on Instagram or famous on TV or famous on YouTube. And you think it comes without heartache and you think it happens so quickly, but you don't always see the years of toil and spinning and figuring it out and all the classes you had to take and the things to get where you are. So I would say, go for it, but be patient with yourself. Don't beat yourself up if it takes a few years before you really get in the swing of it. That overnight success really takes 7 to 10 years for some people, but it takes 20 or 30 for others. And if you love it enough, you don't give up after just a few years. If you love it enough, you'll spend the rest of your life pursuing that dream.
Yes, good advice. Yes, absolutely. Well, where can our listeners connect with you, buy your books, and reach out to you?
Well, I actually have a special offer for your listeners today. I'm going to give them all a copy of my last book, not my current one, but Poetic Prescriptions for Eternal Youth. I made a page just for your listeners. So if they go to poeticprescriptions.com/free book, they can all get a download of my last book.
Wow. Well, that is beautiful. You surprised me. I didn't know you were going to do that. You didn't tell me. That's great.
I just thought of it yesterday. I thought yesterday, I was like, I need something to give away. So
that's
and
great.
It's a really fun, humorous book. So I hope you all take advantage of it.
That's wonderful. Yes. We'll have to when we promote your book and promote your show, we will mention that in all the posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for being on the Nadia Sahari Show and for reaching out to me. I appreciate it. I love to have guests like you that teach us and give us knowledge that we never thought of. And I always learn something, and I just love it. Thank you, Katherine, for being on my show. I appreciate it so much.
The pleasure was mine. Thank you.
God bless you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in with Nadia and her guests. For more info, episodes, and connection, please visit our website, thenadiasaharishow.com. Share episodes with your friends. Follow us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Instagram, and most importantly, never give up. Live your dream.
Get locked into the Nadia Sahari Show and achieve your dreams today. Listen in at the NadiaSahariShow.com. Listen to some
Latin Connection magazine is a family magazine featuring people of influence, cultural events, and traditions, recipes and photos of Latin food, Hispanics in business. Plus, get news on Latin festivals, Latin entertainment, and Latinos in the fashion industry, and see photos of Latinos in action all over the U.S. Conoce tu vecino y mucho más. We invite you to share your special event with us at LatinConnectionMag.com. Latin Connection Magazine. Conexión Latina y mucho más. Latin Connection Magazine. It's for anyone and everyone to enjoy, no matter who you are.